Hi guys, and welcome to my review of the 1990 miniseries based on the Stephen King novel. The reason why I'm doing this review, I obviously the TV series It Welcome to Derry has just dropped. I haven't seen the pilot episode yet. I feel kind of like a bit late to the party, but I've kind of avoided it intentionally. I'm avoiding it till episode 2 drops, just because I kind of like want to start up with a bit of a binge watch. So I'm just kind of trying to hold off to episode 2. So in the meantime, I'm going to basically be reviewing the 1990 miniseries. Obviously, here I'm going to review the 2017 and 2019 adaptations as well with Bill Skarsgård, and then obviously that will take us up to next Monday here in the UK, where episode 2 will be dropping, and then I'll be feeding back my thoughts on that, and then I'll be doing an episode by episode review weekly of It Welcome to Derry now. So like I said, this was the first adaptation we had got of Stephen King's source material, and I know that it's an adaptation that a lot of people hold to their heart. A big part of that is that we have Tim Curry as Pennywise, and honestly, it feels like I'm very much on, in that camp as well, because I do feel a certain amount of nostalgia of this, although I wasn't as young when I saw this as maybe like a few other people who have a nostalgia for this. I was probably about like pre-teens when I kind of eventually got round to seeing this. I think maybe as a kid I only saw snippets of it, and I think I was only the opening with Pennywise in between the washing lines and stuff. Um, so um, I see since then. I've seen all the adaptations. I have read the book. I see it's a brick of a book. I mean, for a while, this was like the only good long while. This was the only real adaptation we had, and I was just a big fan of obviously the source material. I'm a big fan of the story. I think there's just something that's so obviously it's such a common phobia, but of clowns. I think when you have this group of children who are the target of this horror, I think there's just something very obviously universal and iconic about that. But I do feel that there's also something kind of universal in the themes that it's exploring, with a loss of innocence and all of that kind of stuff. Like I said, I am very much in the camp where this adaptation has a very special place in my heart. It has a lot of charm for me. I do get a lot of enjoyment out of it. I get a lot of enjoyment out of Tim Curry's performance as Pennywise. However, I suppose I am a bit on an island maybe when I think that, because every time I had kind of like watched this, as much as I had enjoyed it, I had always kind of having after read the book, I had always kind of like secretly longed that we would get an adaptation that would be closer to a book, that would be closer to the Pennywise that we get in the books, and I feel like um, and I'm not gonna try and use as a launch pad to do a kind of comparison between the two adaptations and between Tim Curry and Bill Skarsgård and there's Pennywise, and try and pitch one against the other and argue which is better, because honestly I feel like this is part of the charm actually, that I feel like I'm able to enjoy both of these adaptations and both of the interpretations of this character differently, because they are very different. But they can be their own thing, and this is kind of where where I feel about this miniseries, where it's maybe not necessarily the most faithful adaptation of the source material, but it is definitely a enjoyable ride. I do enjoy it for what it is, and yeah, I do feel like it. Like I said, this is a miniseries that I can rewatch quite a bit and still get a lot of enjoyment out of. However, where this story does start to lose me is when we move into the second half, or the second episode, as it was initially aired in this mini series, where we get more of a focal shift then, where after the kids have defeated Pennywise at the as children at the end of the first episode. The second episode then picks it up 27 years later, where they are adults again, and Pennywise has come back out of hibernation to kind of exact their revenge. And I do feel like, and that I think this is just, I don't think this is the adaptation's fault, because I do feel like this is more just of an issue maybe with the story beats of this, or the story shift. That I just feel that this story just works so much more effective when the children are the focal point of a horror. That's not to say that facing something like Pennywise wouldn't be scary as an adult, but like I said, I just think that when you are having these kids face against it, I just think it hits differently. So the second half of this mini-series does kind of lose something. Just from memory, I do think that when we do shift into the adult losers club in the second episode, I do think it goes a bit lit, although we do have a focal shift from into them being adults. I think we do get more flashbacks still into their when they were kids than we do in the 2019 chapter 2. But yeah, which seems to be a bit more in line with keeping with the book, where it goes kind of back and forth. The time jumps are a bit more consistent in the books, and that's one of the things where I think that this mini series does get right. It hasn't distracted me from this, but there are some little gripes in terms of, or rather, some of the stuff I wanted to see more. Like I said, I wanted to see a Pennywise that was closer to the books, but also maybe a more accurate portrayal of the kids in this, because I feel like this is very much. I feel this mini series is still very much a part of. It's still kind of very much of its time, where it's still kind of feeling like it's got to portray these kids as the protagonists of a story, and as a result it feels like it's got to portray these kids as being these squeaky clean, whiter than white type kids, and it's absolutely ring true to me, and it certainly doesn't ring true to how the Losers Club are portrayed in the books neither. So like I said, that's never affected me, because I've always enjoyed the cast of this, but yeah, I always felt like that was another thing I always kind of longed for, that wasn't delivered on with this mini series. I also feel like that when you get to the conclusion this mini-series where they face off. This is another thing that kind of sticks in quite a lot of people's minds with the finale of this, where they head off against Pennywise, and Pennywise turns into a spider. Some of the effects of there are a bit dated. I think some of that sort of stuff it hasn't kind of aged too well. Again, this is not another sort of nitpick, but it doesn't really kind of distract from my enjoyment of the series. But there are some little like character descriptions in the book that don't quite line up in this adaptation. So, for example, there's a poem that is written and recited about Beverly, and her hair is being described as a winter fire. And that's because in the book her hair is red, and she's portrayed, the child version of her is portrayed by Emily Perkins, the adult version of her is portrayed by Annette O'Toole, and I'm never going to complain about it because I love both of those actresses, so it's not an issue for me. But yeah, it does just feel a little bit odd and a bit out of place where they are kind of still keep that lyric, keep that poem, and applying it to somebody where that is clearly a describing somebody with red hair, and you're like kind of looking at Beverly, and at no point does she have red hair in this, so it just feels a bit odd. But yeah, like I said, overall, guys, I still really enjoy this movie for all of its faults. I do still get a lot of enjoyment out of this. I do get a charm out of this. So that's pretty much wraps it up. So yeah, like I said, guys, thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to ring that bell for notifications if you want to see more. Please let me know down in the comment section about what your personal opinion is of this mini-series, if you've seen it. And yeah, like I said, stay tuned, because obviously I will be reviewing the 2017 and 2019 adaptation of it, and then I will be reviewing episode 1 and 2 of Welcome to Derry next week. So yeah, stay tuned for all of that. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more of that. And until next time, I will see you guys on the next video. You guys take care.